Hey, what is going on guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS4 jailbreak tutorial. It's been over 2 years since my last tutorial on how to jailbreak the PS4, and there has been quite a few changes since then, so it's about time that I did an update on this. So I've gone ahead and reset my PS4 back to basically a stock PS4 with nothing on it, so that I can show you how to set up the jailbreak from scratch. So if you have an old PS4 that's just been sitting in a closet for a few years gathering dust, maybe now's the time to take a look at it, see if you can jailbreak it and get a lot more out of it. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to set this up. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is head up to your notifications, check your downloads and make sure you don't have a system software update that is pending, either downloading currently or has downloaded and is waiting to be installed. If you see one of those showing up here, like this one here, version 11.02, make sure you hit the options button and delete it. Select it there and get rid of it. Get rid of that download. And then we're going to head over to our settings and scroll down to our system settings. And then in the system settings, we're going to go to automatic downloads and make sure that system software update files and application update files are both unchecked. This will prevent the console from automatically downloading and installing system updates. So you want to make sure that you do that because we don't want to accidentally update our console to a higher firmware, which will have patched the jailbreak. So next you want to make sure that you can actually jailbreak your PS4 by heading into the settings and going to system information. You can see I'm on system software version 9.00. Now in order to jailbreak the PS4, you do need to be on that exact system software version 9.00. Now if you're on an older firmware, that's not really an issue because we can update to 9.00 if you're on any older firmware. So if you're on 8.03, 8.50, 8.60, something like that, you'll be able to update to 9.00. If you're on a higher firmware like 9.03, 9.50, 9.60, 10 point something, 11 point something, then unfortunately you're on too high of a firmware to do the jailbreak. You need to be on 9.00 or lower. So if you're on an older firmware than 9.00, an older system software version, stick with me here because I'll show you guys how to update from an older version to 9.00 so that you will be on the correct firmware version to jailbreak the PS4. If you're already on 9.00, then just skip to the timestamp you see on screen to skip this section. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how to update your console to 9.00. So in order to do this, you will need a USB stick. So make sure you grab yourself a USB drive and you'll need a computer that you can use to get the files. So what you want to do is head over to darksoftware.xyz/ps4/firmware list. I'll also have another mirror site that you can go to download the firmware version. We want to download the 9.00 system software version from our retail firmwares list right here. If we scroll down, we're going to find 9.00. So right the way down, we've got it right here, 9.00, 467 megabytes. And we're going to click the button here to download it. And once you have got the system software version downloaded, we're going to pop that onto a USB stick. So grab yourself a USB drive. So I've got one right here, USB-E. If I right click on the drive and go to properties, make sure that the file system is either exFAT or FAT32, which means it will be detectable by the PS4. If it's NTFS, it will not be detected. So make sure it's exFAT or FAT32. And we're going to create a new folder on this drive in the root of the drive called PS4 in uppercase characters. And then inside that folder, we're going to create another folder called update, which is also going to be in uppercase characters. And then inside that folder is where you're going to want to put your update file. So drag the update file inside that folder. And there we go. So the next thing you want to do is head to view and go down to show file name extensions. You want to make sure that is ticked. And with that, we can then rename the file and make sure that you delete the 900. So it's just called PS4 update.pup in uppercase characters. Press enter and you should be good. So this is how you have to have the USB drive structured in order for the update file to be detected by the PS4. It needs to be the root of the USB drive. You've got your PS4 folder, then the update folder, then the update file, and it all has to be named exactly the same as you see here. So with that, we can go ahead and eject the drive and plug it into our PS4 itself. Okay, and on the PS4, firstly, we want to head back out to our settings, go to our network settings, and make sure you disconnect from the internet. So uncheck the connect to internet box. that will prevent the console from trying to install the latest firmware from online instead of the one on your USB stick. So from here, we're going to then go down to System Software Update and let it check for the system update. And it should say update of system software 9.00 was found. That's the one on your USB stick. If it says 9.00, you can click OK and let it install that update file. If it doesn't detect it, then double check the USB stick, make sure you have named everything correctly and it's in the right format. So once you've done that and you've got everything up to date, it will reboot a couple of times while doing the update, and then it will boot you back into the home screen and you'll be updated to 9.00. So once you're back into the home screen after the update, head to your settings, go back down to System and check System Information, and it should now say that you're on System Software 9.00, and that means you are now ready to do the jailbreak. Okay, so once you've confirmed that you're on 9.00, we can now move on to do the jailbreak. So basically what we want is a spare USB stick that you don't need to use for any other purpose. You just want to have a dedicated USB stick that you can use to jailbreak the PS4. So grab yourself a USB stick. It can be any size USB stick, so even a really small USB stick will be fine, like an old one should do just fine. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is switch over to the computer and plug in your USB drive into your computer. So from here, we want to download the software Rufus, which you can download right here. Link will be in the description along with everything else that you need. So go ahead and click that to download it. Next, we want to grab the exFAT hack Pico image, which is the image file that we're going to use to jailbreak our PS4 from the USB. So just click on this right here in GitHub, and then click this button here to download the raw file. Once you've got those downloaded, copy them over to your desktop. So we're going to open Rufus. Okay, so once you have Rufus open, select your USB drive in the device list. You can tick the box to list USB hard drives if it's not automatically detected, and then you should be able to find it here. So from here, we're going to click the button here to select, and we're going to select our exFAT hack Pico image that we downloaded, and we're just going to write that to the USB drive by clicking start. Obviously, back up any data on the USB drive before doing this because it will erase the drive. So click OK and let that install the image. It should literally just take about a second, and there we go, it is done. So we can now close, and what you should notice is that the USB drive will no longer be detected on the computer. So if I go back here onto my computer, you can see the USB drive is no longer detected, which means it has written the image successfully. So now we can go ahead and unplug the USB drive, but we don't want to plug it into the PS4 just yet. So we'll switch back over to the PS4 here. Okay, so now that we're back on the PS4, we're going to head back to our settings and go to our network settings. Go to the network settings and reconnect to the internet if you were previously disconnected. Check your internet connection, make sure everything is up and running. Okay, so now that we're connected to the internet, we can head back to our homepage and run the internet browser. Now, I'd recommend clearing everything from the browser to make it run as lightweight as possible, because the jailbreak is ran using the browser, and the more memory that the browser has, the less likely you are to run into crashes and issues. So if we press the options button, we can head to settings and delete the cookies and delete the website data. And then from there, we can also hit options and go to browsing history and press options and clear browsing history. And that will get rid of all of that. And then you can close the browser and reopen it, and it will now run as lightweight as it can. Okay, so now we're going to go to the website es7in1.site. And this is an indexing site that indexes a bunch of websites that host the jailbreak. So that way, if any website goes down in future, you can just select one of the other ones that are available here. So the one we're going to run is the Chameleon host. So we'll select that option and then select this option here on the right for the AIO host and let that load up. And then we're going to choose the manual host exploit menu and then the PS3 manual host. Either one will work, but this one's faster. So we're going to select that option and it's going to install the offline cache. So what this is doing is caching the website in the browser for offline use. So even when you're not connected to the internet, you'll still be able to return to this exact link and access the web page offline. So it's probably a good idea to add this page to your bookmarks. So press the options button and go to add bookmark and click OK to add that to your bookmarks. Okay, so from here we can run the actual jailbreak payload itself, which is the GoldHEN payload. We're going to choose the latest beta build, which is the one on the left. You've also got the full release on the right. which is an older version, but it is more stable. But for getting things set up, we're going to run the version on the left here, the beta build. So we're going to press X on that and let it load. Okay, so once you get the message to insert USB now, you're going to plug in the USB drive that has the Pico image on it into one of the USB ports on the PS4. And then you're just going to wait until you get a notification that pops up on screen that should say the USB drive's file system is unsupported, as you can see right there. Wait for that message to start to disappear and then click OK. And then we can unplug the USB drive once you get this jailbreak done message. Now, you might not get the jailbreak done message. It might give you an error that says failed to trigger exploit. If you see that message, you'll have to restart the PS4 and try again. It may also just crash the PS4 during this stage, in which case you'll just have to hit the power button twice to turn it back on, and then get back onto this page and run the jailbreak again until it eventually works. And then we can click OK to this message, and it will run the GoldHEN payload. And that's us got the jailbreak running. Now, there's other errors that you might also run into when you try to load the GoldHEN payload. You might get a not enough free system memory error, or a failed spray error, or another similar error. If you get any of those, you can just refresh the web page and try and load the payload again. It's only the failed to trigger exploit message that you actually need to restart the PS4 for. Okay, so once you have the jailbreak running, we should have the updates blocked. So if we head into our system software update, you can see it will try to download the update file. However, it should shortly fail. There we go, cannot download. So we have successfully blocked system software updates, and that is persistent. So even when you restart the PS4, updates will remain blocked. So you shouldn't have to worry about accidentally installing any system updates now. Okay, so now we have the jailbreak running. You'll notice that we now have the GoldHEN Settings menu showing up here in the function menu. We've also got it at the top of our settings menu as well. If we go in here, we have a bunch of settings that we can customize. So if we head into the debug settings, we've got the package installer, and that is for installing apps, games, DLC, and updates. You can copy them to the root of a USB drive. They come in package files, .pkg files. You copy them to the root of a USB drive, and then you can go into the package installer and install the packages that are on the USB just by clicking install all, and it will install them directly onto the console. So I'm using it to install Bloodborne here, just as an example. So that's how you install stuff onto the PS4 manually, just like installing APK files on an Android device. So next we want to go down and enable the game debug settings, and then we're going to go back and enter our cheat settings, and we can go to show title ID. I tend to enable this for title ID and app version, although it can slow down the menu if you have a lot of apps installed, so you might want to keep that off if that is the case. Then we're going to go back and go to the plugin settings and enable the plugins loader. And then we'll go back to the game overlay, and I'm going to enable the FPS counter. There's also a system info that you can show, as well as scan lines for retro games. So that's personal preference, but I'm going to put the FPS counter on there. And then I'm going to go into the server settings and enable the FTP server, which is definitely a handy thing to have enabled. And that is pretty much all the settings that I like to have set up there. So you can see we now have our game installed, and we've got the title ID and app version showing. Now, GoldHEN is still not running at its full potential yet because we're missing patches, plugins, and cheats that it's able to use. So we want to get that all installed. So we're going to head over to the internet browser again. We'll close this page and we'll head to pkg-zone.com/install. So head to that website in your PS4 browser and let it load the online store installer. Okay, there we go, starting the online store installer. Once you see this, you can close the internet browser, and it should have installed an application called the Homebrew Store, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a third-party app store that you can use to install third-party apps onto the PS4. So we're going to run the Homebrew Store. So click through all of the messages that pop up when you first launch it, and then you'll get onto the actual Homebrew Store itself here. And we're going to head down to the Store Groups option, and then go down to the Utility section and select that. And then we're going to use the D-pad to scroll up one page, and we're going to go to the PS4 Cheats Manager, select that option, and download and install. and that will download the application directly onto the PS4 from the Homebrew store. So it has to download, and then it does the installation. There we go, installation complete. So once you see that message, we can go ahead and close out of the Homebrew store, and we now have the Cheats Manager installed. So we're going to run this application, and once you get this up and running, we're going to go to the update section, and then go down to the internet option for updating cheats, patches, and plugins. Select that option, and then update cheats from GitHub, and that'll install all of the latest cheat files. Over 3,000 cheats installed, and then we'll do the same for the patches, 295 patches, and then the same for the plugins. And that will download 11 plugins. There we go. So we now have the plugins, patches, and cheats installed, and we now have GoldHEN fully set up. So one of the things that this allows us to do is apply patches to our games. So as an example, I can go into the patches section, press the triangle button to filter for games that I only have installed. And then I can select Bloodborne and enable the famous 60 FPS patch for Bloodborne. I can enable that. I can also enable the resolution patch for 720p, so we can get a higher frame rate. And then also we'll skip intro logos as well. So that's how you apply patches. We can close out of the Cheats Manager now. And the last thing we need to do is head to the GoldHEN settings once more, go to the plugin settings and enable the game patch plugin. Okay, so that's everything fully set up for GoldHEN. So just to show what that's all done, if we load up a game like Bloodborne, we can see that when we start to load this, we'll get our FPS counter that I enabled in the bottom left-hand corner. We also have our patches being applied on launch. So it skipped the intro logos and goes straight to the actual game itself. And from here, I will jump into a game. Okay, so we're loaded up into the game here. As you can see, we're running at a higher frame rate than 30 FPS, so we're getting a smoother Bloodborne experience here. And I can also hold down the share button to access the cheats, and I can enable things like the master code, infinite health. We'll turn those on, and then we can press circle to go back into the game, and we should have the cheats applied. So if we get attacked here, you can see my health is not going down because we have infinite health enabled. So there we go. That is an example of some of the things that you can do with GoldHEN once you have the cheats, patches, and plugins applied. So the last thing to mention here is that this jailbreak is a tethered jailbreak. So when you restart the PS4, you will lose the jailbreak, but all of the applications and your settings will still be there. So what happens when you restart the PS4 is that none of your applications that you've installed when you were jailbroken will be accessible. When you try and run them, you'll get a message saying that you cannot use this content, like when we try and load Bloodborne here when we've just rebooted the PS4. And you'll also notice that the GoldHEN menu option has disappeared. So all you need to do is go back on the web browser, go back to your bookmarked page and load the GoldHEN payload again. Once the GoldHEN payload is loaded, you'll then be able to access everything that you were able to access before, because the console will be jailbroken again. Now, obviously, that is a bit inconvenient, having to run the jailbreak every single time you restart the console. So one option is to use rest mode instead. If you go into the settings and you scroll down to the power saving settings, you can then go to set features available in rest mode, and you can enable the box to keep applications suspended. If you enable that checkbox, then you can just put the console into rest mode after you've jailbroken it, and then you can recover from rest mode and the jailbreak will still be running. So instead of turning the console off, you can just put it into rest mode and recover from rest mode and still continue to use the jailbreak. So that is one option, but you probably will have to restart the console at some point, so you'll just have to rerun the jailbreak again. Now, obviously, you'll have to use the USB drive every time you rerun the jailbreak. So one option is you can use Raspberry Pi chips or ESP chips to auto-inject the USB image for you, so you don't have to plug in and unplug a USB drive every time you want to run the jailbreak. I have separate tutorials for that I'll leave linked in the cards and down in the video description. And finally, this video is part of a playlist of tutorials that show you many other things that you can do with a jailbroken PS4. Like you can run Linux, for example, and load PC games and other emulators. There's lots of other things you can do with a jailbroken PS4, so check out the playlist link down in the video description to take full advantage of your jailbroken PS4. So that's it from me for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And once again, I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video.